If you are training naturally without any performance-enhancing drugs, and you feel like your progress is slower than it should be, like you are doing everything right, and still not building muscle at the rate you see other people building it, then this video is going to give you the complete honest framework for natural muscle building. Because the most important thing you need to understand before anything else is that natural muscle building operates on completely different biological timelines and requires completely different strategic priorities than enhanced muscle building, and the fitness industry's failure to make this distinction clearly and consistently is the single greatest source of frustration, unrealistic expectation, and program abandonment in the entire natural lifting community. The biological reality of natural muscle building begins with understanding your anabolic hormonal environment and how to maximize it without pharmaceutical assistance. Your body naturally produces testosterone, growth hormone, and IGF-1, which are the three primary anabolic hormones driving muscle protein synthesis. And research on natural testosterone levels shows that the average male produces between 300 and 1000 nanograms per deciliter, a range wide enough that two natural lifters doing identical programs with identical nutrition can have dramatically different rates of muscle growth based entirely on their endogenous hormonal output. But the critical insight is that regardless of where you fall in that natural range, your hormonal environment is profoundly and measurably influenced by your training, sleep, nutrition, and stress management in ways that can shift your effective anabolic output by 20 to 40% in either direction. Meaning the natural lifter who optimizes all four of these variables simultaneously is operating in a meaningfully different hormonal environment than the one who optimizes only training while neglecting the others. For training specifically, the research is unambiguous that compound movements performed with heavy loads in the 3 to 8 rep range produce the greatest acute testosterone and growth hormone response of any training modality, with a study published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research showing that multi-joint exercises like squats and deadlifts produced significantly higher post-exercise testosterone elevations compared to isolation exercises. And this acute hormonal response, while transient, creates a systemic anabolic environment that benefits not just the muscles being trained, but all muscle tissue throughout the body during the recovery window, which is why the Natural Lifters program must be built around heavy compound movements as the non-negotiable foundation, rather than the isolation-heavy, machine-based programs that work for enhanced athletes whose pharmacological hormonal elevation makes exercise selection less critical for systemic anabolic signaling. The nutrition strategy for natural muscle building is more precise and more consequential than most people realize, because without the pharmacological override of anabolic drugs, the natural lifter's muscle protein synthesis rate is exquisitely sensitive to protein availability, meal timing, and caloric balance. Research by Stuart Phillips at McMaster University, who has dedicated his career to natural muscle protein metabolism, shows that natural muscle protein synthesis is maximized when protein intake reaches 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight distributed across 3 to 5 meals, containing 30 to 50 grams of high leucine protein each, because leucine is the specific amino acid that acts as the primary trigger for mTORC1 activation and muscle protein synthesis initiation, and each protein meal must contain sufficient leucine, approximately 2 to 3 grams, to maximally stimulate the synthesis response. meaning 150 grams of protein eaten in one meal, does not produce the same anabolic response as 150 grams distributed across 4 meals. And the natural lifter who ignores meal distribution is leaving a measurable portion of their protein's anabolic potential unrealized every single day. The psychological dimension of natural muscle building is the one that ultimately determines whether all the physiological knowledge you accumulate ever translates into actual results, and the central psychological challenge is managing expectations across a timeline that the fitness industry has systematically conditioned you to consider inadequate. Natural Muscle Building Research by Lyle McDonald and Alan Aragon on natural muscle gain rates establishes that a natural male in his first year of training can expect to gain approximately 9 to 11 kilograms of muscle under optimal conditions, dropping to 4 to 5 kilograms in year 2, 2 to 3 in year 3, and approximately 1 to 2 kilograms per year for advanced natural lifters. And these rates are not limitations imposed by inferior genetics or insufficient effort. They are the biological ceiling of natural anabolic hormone-driven muscle protein synthesis operating at maximum efficiency. And the natural lifter who understands these rates will interpret a month of 1 kilogram of muscle gain as excellent progress, while the natural lifter who has been conditioned by enhanced athlete transformation content will interpret the same result as failure and abandon their program for something more extreme. Build your program around 3 to 4 heavy compound movements per session with progressive overload as the absolute non-negotiable central principle. Eat 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram, distributed across multiple leucine-rich meals. Sleep 7 to 9 hours as a primary anabolic intervention rather than a lifestyle preference. Manage psychological stress because cortisol directly suppresses testosterone and growth hormone through hypothalamic pituitary axis interference. Measure your progress in months and years rather than days and weeks, and understand with complete clarity that the natural lifter who does all of these things consistently over 3 to 5 years builds a physique that is genuinely impressive, genuinely healthy, and genuinely theirs. And that is not a consolation prize for not using drugs. It is the actual goal, and the patience and consistency it requires is not a burden, but a filter that separates the people who transform their bodies from the people who spend years searching for a shortcut that the biology of natural human muscle growth simply does not contain.